Victorians aren't happy. Have you got a thought on that?
Well, Peter, by the sounds of it, Victorians are happy because the Victorian Nationals Party agreed to write to Barnaby to congratulate him on the leadership and to commend Michael McCormack on his past leadership as well. I think the key word in your report there was unsuccessfully. Obviously, Barnaby generates different opinions from different people. I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing that people know where the Nationals Party stands now. Some people won't necessarily agree with it, but you know where Barnaby is coming from. And I've had almost universally positive feedback up here in regional Queensland from Barnaby coming back to the leadership.
Okay, let's go to your state of Queensland now. It's been busy. As you know, it's been a busy week. The Queensland Premier last night, she's kept up her brawl with the federal government, and this is on the back of the comments by Jeanette Young this week as well. What's been your take?
It's been embarrassing for Queensland, Peter, really embarrassing. I mean, it's a tough period right now with another lockdown hitting Brisbane. We've got to be very clear about why we have this lockdown. We have this lockdown because the Queensland government placed a FIFO miner from Bendigo, where there were no coronavirus cases, into a hotel with international rivals where there were coronavirus cases just for one night, and then sent him off to the Northern Territory. Now they're in lockdown because of that as well. And then the other issue, of course, was the nurse in the COVID ward, or at least on the reception of a COVID ward, who has tested positive. Both of these things involve the Queensland government, and so it's just standard operating procedure for Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk to try and distract by criticising others. I don't think Queensland has taken kindly to this latest Premier attempt at distraction. What they want to see is solutions. We've just got to fix this up, get our nurses vaccinated, stop having knee-jerk reactions by locking people up from regional areas of the country where there are no coronaviruses, and just get on with the job.
Well, what about Jeanette Young's, well-publicised statement this week that people under the age of 40 should not take AstraZeneca? Now, we've spoken in the past. You have had issues with AstraZeneca as well in the past. What's your view of this? I mean, would you take it?
I don't. I didn't. Look, I wouldn't because of ethical issues, Peter. I'm Catholic, and there's some other issues there. I'll go with the Pfizer for that reason. But I didn't think the Chief Health Officer's comments were helpful. My issues with AstraZeneca a few months ago was let's just pause and see what's going on. I thought there might be an issue. Now, I would say, I don't know what to say, but I told you so. There are some issues. In saying that, now we know more about those issues. They are very rare conditions. The key thing is for people to get advice from their local GP. Some people will have higher risks of the outcome, even though overall, on average, the blood clotting episodes are very rare. So just consult with your GP, and just like every other medical procedure we have in this country, whether it's anaesthesia, whether you go to the dentist, you get the medical advice, you might have to sign a form, they take you through the risks, and you make your own decision. That principle works really well, and so I'm not sure why the Chief Health Officer calls into question our whole medical decision framework by her quite exaggerated comments this week.
And the anti-vaxxers are already feeding on it. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. But it also, I think the other point to make here about Jeanette Young's comments is that it's kind of incoherent with the Queensland government's overall policy, which she's signed off on, to lock down Brisbane, because basically she's saying that, look, an 18, 19-year-old has almost no chance of dying from coronavirus, so why should they take any risks with taking the vaccine? But if that's the case, why are we locked down then? Because 70% of people, older Australians, already have one shot. Why do we need to lock down much more anymore if, as the Chief Health Officer is now saying, the risks for young people are very, very low? So once we get the vaccine available to all older Australians, which it basically is now, well, let's open up. What are we continuing this for? Okay.
Well, on that point now, National Cabinet today, already some details have been leaked on that this morning in The Australian. So the Prime Minister is now talking about a plan. Why have people been denied a plan for so long?
Well, I don't think that's true at all. I don't accept that. There is a plan, but of course plans have to be updated constantly in a changing environment. No plan could completely predict the issues that we've discussed that we've foreseen with the AstraZeneca vaccine. No plan could completely predict the export controls that came into place with different vaccines around the world. So the plans have had to be completely updated, and that will continue to happen, I'm sure, over the months ahead. So today there is a talk of a plan about when we can finally end these lockdowns that are crippling businesses around the country. Look, I would like to see, I think Dan Andrews said something sensible today. I'll give him credit for that. That really what we need to see, I think, is once the vaccine is widely available, let's move away from this. I'm not sure whether we need to hit a certain quantitative target like 70 or 80%.
Yeah, he's
I think
80.
the better issue is once it's available, once everyone can get it who wants it, let's open up. And if you're worried about the risks, go down to your pharmacy, go to your GP and get the vaccine. And if you don't want to do that, fine, that's your choice.
So should then there be a vaccine passport like they've just announced in the EU overnight?
Well, I'm totally against that too for the same reasons. Let people, if people are worried about the risks inside this country, within a few months there'll be a vaccine available. We're going to have 20 million Pfizer vaccines turn up within the next few months, and another 20 million of Moderna hopefully by the end of the year. So we're going to have enough vaccines by Christmas, and then it's up to you and your choice. I don't want to see.
Yeah. If you don't have the vaccine and you get coronavirus, that's on you.
Exactly, and that principle of individual freedom has served this country pretty well.
Yeah. Hey, just on this other point too, various premiers have called for a reduction in travel caps. The Queensland Premier again, she wants it halved, so she wants 50%. Dan Andrews, he wants it even more than that. What's your take on that? It looks like the government is even softening on this yesterday, according to Simon Birmingham.
Look, I hope we don't buckle to that. I think we should be opening up more and more. Let's keep this all in perspective. Not a single Australian this year has died from the coronavirus after contacting the coronavirus here in Australia. Not a single person has. Now, that may change, unfortunately, in the weeks ahead, given the outbreaks we've seen. But realistically, and on any other measure, this is not the threat that it was last year that we thought and feared. And to go backwards and put up the borders even more and stop more Australians coming back home, I think would be a retrograde step. I'd like to see us progressively open up here. Yes, there are outbreaks from hotel quarantine, but that must be put in the context of what the risks of those outbreaks are. As I said, there hasn't been the fatal outcomes that we feared last year.
Yeah, okay. Matt Canavan, good to chat as always. I ran out of time to ask you about China, but unfortunately we'll do that again. Unless you can do it in 10 seconds.
I don't think it's going away. I don't think that issue's going
10
away.
seconds. 10 seconds. What do you think of Xi's speech yesterday? Are you worried about it?
Why did he mention net zero emissions? I thought that was the mission of the Chinese Communist Party, but not a single mention of climate change. Fancy
net zero by 2060. Yes, we are believing when they say that.
Well,
Matt Canavan, good to chat. We'll talk to you again soon.